We come now to how. Most important question is what. How and when, those are technicalities. The most important question is what, meaning the will and what should be done. The reform process that is now underway in the pipeline has its challenges. And when we talk about growth rate, 5%, some experts say that you need to have 9% growth rate to be able to achieve a breakthrough quantumly. Then some experts say that we need this much foreign investments, etc., etc. My approach is the following. We need to have a complete transformation of the entire system. And with this entire system's projections for growth, for this, for that, will change very quickly. I'm sure that you will share this. For my point is that if you have projection for next year of growth, let me say, this year 4.7 or 5%. Next year a little bit more accelerated growth, a couple of points more, etc. But when you have a new taxation policy, when you have provide access to low interest loans, when people have opportunity to partner with foreign investments, when people have opportunity to develop technologies, when people have opportunity to transform innovation into practical projects, then everything will accelerate. Everything will go in a completely different way. And it's not a dream. It's a dream which is based on reality. It's a dream, of course, but not just a dream, mere dream. It's a dream that is based on reality, and it's feasible. It's feasible, but it requires, I go back, vision, strategic vision, and what is needed. Investments are needed, of course. Without investments, without flow of capital, you cannot achieve. But it's not just mere matter of statistics. Investments, the change of the environment, this drastic change also facilitates investments into the country. So, companies that come to Armenia, foreign companies, they decide to invest in Armenia. They look for what? They look first of all for stability. They look for good taxation basis, taxation administration. They look for good labor force, skilled labor force. They look for good judicial system because they want to be sure that if a problem comes up, rises, then when they go to the court will come up with a fair decision, just verdict. So, etc., etc., etc. So if you establish these conditions, the capital will flow. And we have capital from very many countries. And capital that comes not only from our compatriots, but also companies that are looking for, they have their business interests, they look for commercial profits. But our compatriots, you all, can do a lot to create this, to create perception of Armenia as a great country, as a cool country. That's very, very important when you have perception and when you have realities. Perception is not sufficient. Along with perception, we have realities. Challenges. There are numerous challenges. Numerous challenges. Those challenges are internal, those challenges are external, those challenges are timing challenges, We can talk about many of them. We can talk about Armenia developing as a model, not only in terms of accomplishing this Velvet Revolution, but in terms also successfully accomplishing overall transformation. But challenges are there, and challenges are political, economic, social. One of the challenges is that compared to other countries, one of them I want to highlight, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have. One of the challenges is that we don't have, as I mentioned earlier, assistance from the world, immediate assistance that someone could tell that, okay, Armenia is on its way to transformation. Why is technical assistance, financial assistance is not coming? Why immediately it's not coming? Why it takes time? Why? Because the revolution in Armenia, there are very many reasons for this. One of the reasons that the revolution in Armenia is not a color revolution. And the perception of a revolution and change in the country is based on a stereotype. And the stereotype that it should be color revolution. But Armenia is not a color revolution. And very many countries are trying to assess, okay, it's not a color revolution. Then what it is. And so gradually we hear experts, we hear opinions in the world that it is even better, much better, which was not initially there, much better than color revolution, because it's a new model. It is not anti. It's pro. It's something that's not antagonistic. It is something that can serve not only Armenian nation, it's in transformation, but can serve humanity. It can be a model for other countries. And it's changing. And this, some of the expert opinions that I presented, experts from the US, they call upon the US administration to extend its helpful hand to Armenia because of these reasons, because Armenia is on its way to transformation, democratic transformation. And recently, the Prime Minister was in Brussels, having meetings in EU. Prior to that, the President was in Germany, having meetings with very important political and business circles. And touching upon Brussels visit, I can tell that what was initially like 3, 4, 5 months back and what we have now, the readiness to support Armenia, it changed. We witness now, we see. When I was reading like the news, I was so happy. So it's changing completely. And the EU is coming forward with its programs, which are beyond its regular scale. And it's not just financial. It's overall engagement with the country. Let me stop here and tell that Armenia has a bright future because people took this decision to have a bright future. Great. It's the people's choice, and along with the people's choice, also we all know that our people are talented. Our people are visionary. Also, Armenia has its diaspora, and which we should view on one dimension, and from the top to the bottom, I believe gradually, incrementally, we will be doing and will be accomplishing. Thank you very much for your patience and attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bayburtyan. I think we open the floor to any questions you may have for Counsel General, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, my question is really very factual. So now we'll be talking about the mining industry in Armenia, which is close to my specialty. So I really, call me naive, I thought that something will change in the ministry which is handling mining. And I have to say that I don't really see any change in how this ministry operates now with the new minister. Let me just be very specific. 4 months ago, there was an announcement that they are looking for scientists, in particular from the United States, so that they can opine on the mining prospects and on the toxicities of the metals, which are now very abundant in the soil in Armenia. And some of the CVs were sent by people who have tens of years of experience working in the field. There was not even an email acknowledgement that the CVs are received. Now, after that, 3 months later, we are learning here, sitting in the LA, that a company in Lebanon is picked up to opine on Amulsar. And if you look at the documents which are posted by environmental groups, it's obvious that nothing has changed. So talking about transparency that you have on one of your slides, it's anything but the transparent process. For me as an Armenian, my question is, first of all, why that company was chosen? Does it mean that now our fate as a nation depends upon some company in Lebanon? So if that company, whose name I believe is Ellard or something like that, will conclude that it's okay to go ahead with the Amulsar exploration, so this means that the government will say yes to that exploration. And related to this, during the previous regime, we didn't know who is behind that Amulsar project by names. Until now, we don't know who are behind that project. Previously, we didn't know what is the role of the president of Armenia in facilitating entry of this company in the Armenian market. Until now, we don't know exactly how he has facilitated. So what is the transparency? And second, we don't see how really Armenia, in particular that ministry, I don't want to generalize, really is interested in our expertise if they are not even responding to the CVs which were sent to them.
No, thank you. As far as you mentioned the president of the country, so let me start with answering with that point that he himself answered the question, stating that he doesn't have any connection with that, with the answer. So when we talk about transparency, the point is that it's the whole thing. So as I mentioned, this is good governance, and the points, characteristics of good governance, those are the goals to achieve, which require time. And transparency is one of those most important ones, and this is something that the government is striving to do, to achieve. Not everything is in place now. Not everything is in place. Not every ministry or an employee in the ministry performs in a way that we desire to see. But in overall picture, so this improvement and the reformation. There are some other many examples that they perform very well. Some very bad way, some very good way. We can be happy with some processes, we cannot be happy with some processes, but we need to take a look at the bigger picture, not limiting ourselves to the bigger picture, because every component is important. And what you say, also important, but to my knowledge, I need to check that. To my knowledge, so it is not that the Amulsar project is replaced with the new company engaging in that. I think I need to check that.
Assessing dangers of the exploration, now they ask company in Lebanon to assess and to evaluate, to say if it's okay to go ahead or not. The government is waiting for their decision.
Yeah. It could be one company assessing, it could be another company assessing, so I can give you more precise picture what is the plan for the assessment, because you are the expert, I am not expert on this, but answering on overall question about the performance of some, like responding properly, not responding quickly, etc. I can tell you this is something, a new culture that we should develop. New culture of bureaucracy in a positive terms that we need to develop. And also to have environmentally very healthy mindset. This is also another thing, that people caring about environment also on the level of policy, institutionalizing this, and you already know about some projects, huge projects to improve environmental in Armenia that are in the phase of implementation. Starting with this or that.
Շնորհակալություն այդ շատ մանրամասն տեղեկությունների համար։ Նախ ես ուզում եմ ձեզ շնորհավորել բացի կոչման համար, ինքը մեր գլխավոր կոնսուլը ստացել արտակարգ եւ լիազոր դեսպանի կոչում, որի համար շնորհավորում եմ։ Եվ դուք նշեցիք, որ ասենք մեր առաջի հարկատուն Քարաջարյանի բրնձամոլիբդենային կոմբինատն է, եւ նշեցիք, որ մենք պետք է լուսավոր ապագա ունենանք մեր երազանքնալ տնտեսական հեղափոխություն կատարենք։ Այդ տնտեսական հեղափոխություն եւ լուսավոր ապագայի համար արդյոք չեք կարծում, որ պետք է մեր բոլոր այդ հանքավայրերը ազգայնացվեն։ Եվ երկրորդ հարցը, խոսում ենք նաև ներգաղթի մասին, որ մարդիկ Սփյուռքում շատ տաղանդավոր մասնագետներ կան, որ կարող են գալ եւ մեր տնտեսությունը, գիտությունը ամեն բոլոր բնակավարներում բարձրացնել։ Բայց չէ՞ որ այս Սփյուռքի հայրենիքը Արևմտյան Հայաստանն է։ Ուրեմն եթե մենք արդեն 2 տարի է մնացել մոտ քիչ, 2 տարի քիչ ժամանակ մնացել մինչև Ուդրովիցյանի իրավարարվեստի 100-ամյակը, արդյոք ճիշտ չէ լինի այդ հարցը բարձրացնել, որովհետև չէ՞ որ մենք հաղթող ենք, հաղթող պետություն ենք եւ ունենք փաստաթուղթ, որը մեզ տրված է, որը անբեկանելի անժամանցելի խնդիր է։ Այս ժողովրդի Սփյուռքի ժողովրդի հայրենադարձությունը կազմակերպենք Արևմտյան Հայաստանում եւ այդ Արևմտյան Հայաստանը ձեռք բերելով մենք ավելի արագ կհզորանանք եւ մեր տեղը կունենանք այս աշխարհում արժանավոր տեղով։
Շատ հարցերի մասին կարող ենք խոսել, բայց եկեք կենտրոնանանք այն հարցերի վրա։ Ես միշտ պատրաստ եմ, սիրով կարող ենք խոսել այդ հարցերի եւ շարքի մասին հարցերի, բայց եկեք կենտրոնանանք այսօրվա մեր շրջանակի վրա։
Ազգայնացման հարցը, բաների, հանքավայրերի, չասեցիք,
Merci. Dr. Ambassador, I agree with most of what you said, but I have 2 remarks.
Sure.
First, I myself, I get really sort of annoyed when I go to Armenia and see Armenian politicians, scientists talking about Varastan, always. Varastan, Adange, Varastan. Varastan should not be the standard that we're looking for. We are better than Varastan, with all due respect to Varastan. First, Georgia, I mean. First, we have really national problems, which we don't have. We are very homogeneous. We're far much more positively nationalistic. Their nationalism tends to be towards fascism. So, I don't want to hear too much about Varastan. Excuse me, we need to look to Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Finland, Switzerland. These are the standards we need to look for. Thank you. My other point is this. I know it's a bit touchy subject. You mentioned about there is no data here. But we always keep forgetting the contribution of the National Security Services and how they are combating corruption. And let's be frank, if it was not for them supporting Pashinyan, the revolution would not have happened. I don't know if you agree with me or not, because a lot of revolutions, popular revolutions that took place, the security services managed to sabotage it or divert it into a more Shikhtagan Janabar chain reaction. So I would like you to, because at AESA we thanked the security services on our website when the revolution happened, and of course we thanked our armed forces because they are very important to the success of our revolution and combating corruption. And they have a lot of information. Now, how they disseminate that information to other resources, I don't know, but I would like your comment on that.
Sure. Thank you. And I'll tell about nationalization of mines, that your natural resources you said, and then we'll quickly move to your point. So this is something that it's a matter of general policy to see like what is beneficial for the nation. And we can discuss about pros and cons of this process, but like it's a different dimension, like what works best for this. Talking about Georgia, Georgia is not a standard for us. Actually, I'll give you a remedy that you will be happy with this, Dr. Shirajan. So for Georgia, Armenia is a standard. So for Georgians, Armenia is a standard. So very often they tell, like they compare with Yerevan, with Armenia, they say this is in Armenia, this is in Yerevan, that will be coming to Georgia. When I mention Georgia, Georgia is important in terms of having similar processes and being next door. I'm repeating and emphasizing, it's not a standard for us, but I'll give a simple example, then I'm sure you will agree with my point. Eradication of corruption in a very short time period. So when we take an example of Sweden, it doesn't work for us. When we take an example of Finland or, I don't know, Chile, it doesn't work for us. So everyone was telling in that part of the world, we should take that's regional specifics and specificities. Everyone was telling, oh, Soviet legacy, Soviet mindset, and then you cannot change, or it's almost impossible. You need like decades to accomplish a change. And the example of Georgia next door shows that in 6 months, we witnessed, conditionally 6 months, we witnessed in 1 month, but it was a continuous process. It changed, the situation changed. Next door customs, next door taxation department that we were witnessing, so they stopped taking bribes. Just we were witnessing, all of us. So it doesn't mean that corruption was eradicated in Georgia. But on the level that people were interacting with municipalities, with police, with prosecutors' office, etc., education, it stopped. So, but the standard for Armenia is really very, very high, the standard. And so we talk not only about the standard that Armenia follows, international standard, but also we talk about Armenia becoming a model for other countries. So this is what will happen if we are able to achieve our goal.
Հարգելի հյուպատոս, շատ հաճելի է ձեզ լսել, որովհետև մենք համայնքս նոր ենք զգում, որ մենք ունենք իրականում գլխավոր հյուպատոս, որի հետ կարելի է առնչվել, շփվել եւ հարցեր տալ։ Պետության տնտեսական զարգացման համար, ինչպես նաեւ ներդրումների ներգրավման համար շատ կարևոր դեր ունի արդարադատության համակարգը։ Ինչ ծրագրեր ունեք, ինչ բարեփոխումների ծրագրեր ունեք Հայաստանյան արդարադատության համակարգում, եւ կարող եք դրանք մեզ կարճ հատիրճ ներկայացնել։ Ես գիտեմ, որ Սփյուռքում կան հզոր ներուժ ունեցող մասնագետներ, որոնք նաև ծրագրեր են ներկայացրել։ Դուք տեղյակ եք դրանից, հատկապես Միացյալ Նահանգների համայնքից, տեղյակ եք դրանցից, դրանք ինչ ընթացքի մեջ են, ինչ շարժի մեջ են։
Շնորհակալություն։ I need also to complete the last part of your question I didn't answer regarding data and also, please excuse me, I need to answer the question, data and also about the role of security services. So, I understand your point, but the revolution was all Armenian revolution, let me put this way. And data that you are referring, so, and data, what I mean here in this chapter, so I mean data which is based on classical quantitative and qualitative methodology, developing for research, obtaining to be able to have a economy developing on this anchor. So this is what I mean. So, and coming to your question regarding justice system is, there are different approaches now being discussed in Armenia, including transitional justice system. Transitional justice before accomplishing a comprehensive justice system reform. So there are very many proposals that have been, I'm not familiar with all of them. Some of them I am familiar, some of them, including from Diaspora that you were referring. Some of them I am not familiar. And if it is part of my jurisdiction, I'll be happy to get acquainted.
Yeah, I want to congratulate Your Excellency being the representative of Armenia here, and express my deep satisfaction to be that the professional diplomat is on the top of this community. I'm PhD in political science and expert in the Armenian community for probably 40 years. I immigrated here and I'm a journalist and also therapist, psychotherapist. And you know, I know Armenian community from comparative studies that I have done with other ethnic minorities. I know all the mechanisms of preservation of ethnic identity. And I want to ask you a question. You are in charge of Armenian community, not only you, of course, but what is your opinion about the tendencies, about the development of Armenian community, and how Armenian community which is the basis, I mean, where are the very important place for Armenia, our support, our intelligence. When you're watching TV, are you satisfied? When you are seeing the interaction, are you satisfied with the input of our intellectuals here into the work of the consulate? Because I think that we can give you good advices. We live here for a long time and know the community. So I hope and I'm sure that your being here would improve a lot Armenian community, Armenian culture here. There is no culture here, which is very, very depressing for me because I love Armenian community. I devoted my life. I was a reporter for Voice of America, working for 5-6 years, so I know this community. So I'm very happy that you are here and I congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you and everyone for kind words. Let me start answering your question with a very important point. I am not in charge of the community. I just wanted to clarify that. As an Armenian diplomat, foreign diplomat, my task is to bridge Armenian community with Armenia. So that is my overarching task. And developing relations on all dimensions. So talking about, I'll be very brief in answering your very important question. Questions. So we all want to see improvement everywhere, including in television, including in culture, including in everything. And better professionalism, and we witness things that, as Doctor was mentioning, in Armenia, we can witness here, we can witness there, that needs improvement. But I can tell the following, that we can have this all if we have the vision, coming again to the same point, and more importantly, strong relations between Armenia and between Armenia proper and Armenian community here, because that's a guarantee from the viewpoint of the culture and the developing of the culture, that mutually this two-way traffic will enable us to move forward. It doesn't mean that it's guaranteed success with this condition. This is just a platform that I'm telling about. The rest we should develop all together. Thank you.
Նախ շատ շնորհակալ եմ, որ այդքան դրական տեղեկություն տվաք մեզի, որ մենք կարող ենք դիսկավորված գնանք լավ հույսերով։ Իմ հարցումս հետևյալն է, նկատի ունենալով սփյուռքի potential-ը, միայն ֆինանսական potential չեմ ասում, մասնագիտական potential-ը, ինչ քայլեր եք առնելու, որ ավելի կազմակերպվածորեն օգտվել այդ potential-ից։ Հիմա ճիշտ է, որ ասացիք, եթե հարց ունեք, կարող եք գալ տեսփանատուն, օրինակ ծրագիր ունեք, մեզ հետ խոսեք, բայց օրինակի համար այնտեղում ինչքան մարդ կարող ամեն տարբեր ձևի հարցերի պատասխանի, կամ եթե նույնիսկ օրինակ կան մասնագետներ, որ ուզում են իրանց օգնությունը ցուցաբերեն, ավելի հեշտ լինի, իմանան ուր դիմեն ու հետ խոսեն։
Հիմա տեսեք, գուցե ես մի հարցին հայերենով պատասխանում։ Ուրեմն տեսեք, շատ լավ գործնական հարց եք տալիս։ Հիմա օրինակ Հայաստանը, երբ որ սկսեց համագործակցել Եվրոպական միության հետ, ուրեմն կարևոր ծրագրերից մեկը հենց սկիզբը Եվրոպական հարևանության ծրագիրն էր, հետո արևելյան գործընկերության, ամենակարևոր ծրագրերից մեկը այն էր, որ Եվրամիությունից մասնագետներ էին գալիս Հայաստան, այս կամ անբնակավար, այսինքն դա կարող է լինել ֆինանսական, բյուջետային, դա կարող է բնապահպանական, դա կարող է լինել տնտեսական եւ այլն։ Գալիս էին տարբեր ծրագրեր կան, դրանցից մեկը twinning էր կոչվում, շատ կարևոր ծրագիր էր, եւ այդ մասնագետները որոշ ժամանակ, մի քանի ամիս, կարճաժամկետ, մի քանի շաբաթ, երբ որ հատուկ խորհրդատվություն էր պետք, որոշը ավելի երկար ժամանակով ամիսների գալիս եւ այդ խորհրդատվությունը տալիս էին որպես մասնագետներ, թե ինչ լավագույն ձևեր կան, միջոցներ կան, նույնը USAID-ն անում ամերիկյան, United Nations-ը միավորված ազգերի կազմակերպությունը եւ այլն։ Հիմա պատկերացրեք, որ նույնը արվում է, որ արդեն արվում է, լրիվ նորություն չի, որովհետեւ շատ մեր հայրենակիցներ այստեղից, Կալիֆոռնիայից արդեն իսկ Հայաստանում են եւ հրաշալի գործ են անում։ Նրանցից ոմանք շատ կարեւոր պաշտոններ ունեն, օրինակ նրանցից մեկը, օրինակ պետական կադաստրի ծառայության ղեկավար դարձավ, մեր սփյուռքահայ, որ շատ ուրախ է իրեն անձամբ ճանաչելով, որ այսպիսի մասնագետ, ուրեմն այսպիսի կարևորագույն պաշտոն է զբաղեցնում Հայաստանում եւ այլն եւ այլն։ Բայց ուրեմն հիմա մենք էլ ենք մշակում այդ համակարգը, ոնց ինչպես անենք, որպեսզի դեռ մշակման փուլում է, որ ձեզ այս բանը չեմ կարող մատուցել, բայց լավագույն տարբերակը, որ մտածում ենք, երկու ձևով ենք մտածում, գուցե ավելի ուշ նոր, գուցե դուք ինչ որ նոր գաղափարներ առաջարկեք, բայց երկու տեսակ տարբերակներ ենք հիմա մտածում։ Մի խումբը հարցերի այն է, որ ասենք Հայաստանում յուրաքանչյուր նախարարություն լինի, գերատեսչություն լինի կամ ինչ-որ ուղղություն ունի, իրանք ներկայացնում են իրենց ինչը անհրաժեշտ։ Այսինքն պահանջներն է արվում, անգլերենով ասած needs assessment-ը եւ ինչի կարիք ունեն, դրան համապատասխան ուրեմն այստեղից մենք հայտարարություն ենք տալիս, թե այս մասնագիտական աջակցության կարիքը կա եւ արվում։ Մյուսը, որ ես նոր եի եկել եւ ինձ առաջարկեց եւ գաղափարը սիրեցի, բայց նաեւ պետք է մտածենք թե ինչպես իրականացնենք, այստեղ ձևավորել գլխավոր հյուպատոսության շուրջ մասնագիտական խմբեր, խորհրդականների մասնագիտական։ Այս բնագավառի վերաբերյալ այն բնագավառի եւ այդ մասնագիտական խմբերը, որ այդ դուրս շատ է եկել այդ գաղափարը, որովհետեւ տեսնում են գործնականությունը դրա, արդեն կապել համապատասխանաբար կամրջել հայաստանյան կառույցների հետ, որոնք այդ մասնագիտական օգնությունը ունեն։ Եվ նաև ընթացքում են, այսինքն դա կարող է լինի հետազոտական, դա կարող է լինի ուրեմն խորհրդատվական, սկսել աշխատանքները այդ ձևով։ Դա մենք անպայման կիրականացնենք մի քիչ որոշ ժամանակ առնելով դա իրականացնելու, որովհետև գիտեք, ես երկար տարիներ աշխատել եմ միավորված ազգերի կազմակերպությունում։ ՄԱԿ-ը այսպեսի համ որպես սկզբում Հայաստանի դիվանագետ, հետո որպես ՄԱԿ-ի քաղցարայով եւ ՄԱԿ-ի դիվանագետ։ Մի սկզբունք ունի ՄԱԿ-ը։ Ինչ ծրագիր որ անում ես, ասում եմ մի վնասիր, do not harm։ Ինչ սկսելուց առաջ մտածի, որ ինչ որ անելու ես, չվնասես։ Այսինքն այնպես պիտի մշակենք, որ հանգարց սխալ չգնա, որ որևէ վնաս չտա հենց գաղափարներին, որ մենք ուզում ենք իրականացնել եւ հասնել դրան։ Նենց որ, բայց գաղափարները լավն է։ Այդ երկուսը, որ նշեցի, գուցե եւ ուրիշներ կլինեն, պետք է սկսենք իրականացնել, ըստ այդմ արդեն երբ որ ցանկությունը կա եւ կարիքը պահանջը կա, արդեն ձևերը կգտնենք։
Young lady there. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the lecture. And I have several questions which we can go with an answer to them. So the first thing is, I've been a student in Armenia. I moved here 1 year ago. So like recently I was a student in high school, schools, and educational system is really weak. We do not have corrupt schools, we have corrupt universities. But schools' problems are the teachers are not good enough. And the minister, Zarai Kartunyan, right? Now he's super minister, he has different like the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Diaspora is going under his control, right? So, and I have not seen anything done in the educational system besides banning the flowers during the like events. That's the only thing Zarai Kartunyan has done that we have heard about it. It's been like almost a year, he's like a minister, and I was like, I would love to see, like, and there is like chaotic situation in universities, like rulers are being changed, no one knows what's gonna be next. The second question is about the rule of law, right? You were talking that it's very important that no one's above the rule, not even the government. But we had the whole recording that leaked out when Arthur Vanetian, who's the head of the National Security Service, was the whole recording was proving that both Pashinyan and Arthur Vanetian had some control over the judge and what's going on in the court. That was like really embarrassing because I was like I had high hopes. I believed that Pashinyan is not going to intervene with the juristic system. And the third question that I have, I'm really happy that they're dealing with trash. It's important, environment's key. It's very important, but it's not the first thing that I expected the government to do because there are people who are poor. I myself am from Shirak province, which is like one of the poorest provinces in Armenia. People are starving. There are people who live in extreme conditions. Elder people do not get like sufficient amount of money. They cannot survive. They cannot. The government does not provide with medications to elderly people. For example, my grandma. There was no way she could survive if we didn't help her, and that's a major problem. You don't deal with like environmental issues, trash, when you can just like open jobs for people, where people can work. So what do you think about it?
Very good,
Like
thank
three
you.
questions.
Thank you for your questions. So let me start with the education. Arek Harshan is not a super minister yet.
Well, he's gonna be.
It's projected to be, but he is not yet. Talking about education, we can discuss. You touched upon a very important issue, education in Armenia. My personal opinion, also as a former professor of 2 universities in Armenia. One is Yerevan State University, my alma mater, and also I had a privilege to teach also at linguistic university named after Bruce for years. So 2 universities I worked myself, and I know environment, and I'm in regular touch with them, my friends, my colleagues. I can tell that educational system is pretty good in Armenia. Let me not
It's
agree.
better in our, it's better, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's better in here, but it was better before. It's weakening. Because like when I'm talking to my
Understood what you
it's
mean.
weakening.
You asked your question. Thank you.
Yeah,
Let me answer
sorry,
that.
it's
Let me answer that. So opinions can differentiate. I can tell you that in Armenia we have very good educational system which needs a lot of improvement. Let me put this way. And also advantage of Armenia's educational system that when we talk about higher education, that we have diversified. We have several foreign universities that bring new standard to Armenia, and they open up a competition with local universities, and they elevate the standard. We have American University in Armenia, which is a very good one, I can assure you, which is affiliate of UC. We have French University, which brings European French education to Armenia, and very popular, with Armenian French and English as instruction language. We have Slavonic University, Russian, and I can tell you some of the colleagues, they were telling even it is so good that can be compared with best universities in Russia. We have our local universities that I'm not telling that everything is perfect. There are a lot of problems. I agree with some of your points, but let's see all this from the positive prism, because our goal is to improve. We need to improve that, including educational system, because education is a basis for everything. That's why we think about improving, developing new methodologies, new systems, bridging Armenian universities with foreign universities, opening up the system for processes abroad, for partnerships abroad. And it's in the pipeline, it's happening, and it should be a common effort also for all of us to improve. The same relates to schools. The schools, I can tell you something directly in a very straightforward way. It's a matter of education, but not only. It's a matter of knowledge, but not only. Good schools, I mean also secondary schools in European terms, that as I understand, which includes also elementary, middle, and high school together, that we call secondary schools. Those schools deteriorated educational system, not only because the textbooks, not only because of this or that, because it's not just a matter of textbooks. We can discuss in detail very many aspects, but because of a system that developed in the schools when teachers, I'll tell you very straightforwardly, in very many places teachers didn't perform as they are capable to perform, hoping that parents will hire them to teach, to give individual tutorship, which became throughout years a mass phenomenon, So they were not teaching properly to attract parents and to pay them to teach separately after school. And that brought to deterioration, which is not the case anymore. And I can highlight this as an emphasis, as a great improvement and achievement, that which is not the case anymore. Salaries should be raised. This is a very important matter, because teachers, and you know something, I can tell you, during the Soviet period. So it was developed a philosophy, attitude, mentality that teacher is one of the most prestigious professions in the society. It changed gradually, and I'm telling this proudly because even kids were, so to the extent that teachers were viewed as legends. When people saw their teachers eating food, they said, oh, teachers also eat food, to that extent. Can you imagine, kids? So, but the status changed, and I'm not talking about professors, and I'm not talking about, the status changed. And at that time also they were not getting a fantastic salary. Salary was more or less level. But there is a need to increase salary, to provide a decent living for them, to improve education. And there are trends in Armenia. I'll give an example. Chemistry, which is very important profession. So some universities, I'm not naming them, there were 3-4 students studying in one class, just in chemistry. People are not interested in chemistry. You would ask a question, why? Like, it's an important profession, specialty, because they view it from the perspective what jobs are available upon graduation. And in this area, in this realm, jobs are not available. They don't come. But history or international relations, how many of graduates are going to become diplomats? Armenia is a small country. It has a huge diplomatic service. But so many students go to study international relations. This is another thing that we don't need so many students in international relations. There are things that needs to be regulated. There are things that needs to be linked to the market, labor market. Those are linked, but institutionally to link, and improve education constantly. In Japan, when Japan started, Japanese economy started to slow down, and from the second economy in the world, it took the place of the third economy. You know, one of the conclusions was that secondary in British terms, educational system, not higher education, started to perform not in the best possible way. And because of this, Japanese economy is not performing up to the standards that they were wishing. So education, no one doubts how important. But my point is, I know the problems. I know that also poverty and difficulties that exist in Armenia. I know that people, very often they are not able to survive on their pensions, and only through the help of their children and their grandchildren they are able to have their living. So yes, those are realities, and that's why people of Armenia chose the change. That's why people of Armenia, they wish to transform their country into the country that they can be proud people also having decent living. And have when I say decent living, standards of Sweden that you were mentioning.
Bravo.
As someone who has been living in Armenia for the past so many years, I house in area and I sponsor students. I just came back from there not too long ago. We have so many problems to solve that if we want to discuss all of them, we'll be here all night. Anyway, I commend you for being open to the brainy people in here. My suggestion is, with your permission, are you thinking about establishing some kind of a Chamber of Commerce kind of a thing in here so you can encourage sale of Armenian products here? And my next question, it's a little bit in line with what that gentleman was talking about. It's about the mining in Armenia, an environmental disaster that has occurred in the Davush region. I'm sure you're aware of it, the diseases and everything. Something very serious, and we should not sell our resources very cheap to any foreign country who comes and brings a lot of money and a lot of equipment to dig whatever we have from the ground and leave the disastrous situation behind. And who is going to correct that? Nobody, there are none. So those are my concerns.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. And talking about Chamber of Commerce and opportunities and our steps, let me tell that we don't intend to establish Chamber of Commerce because there are already existing Chamber of Commerces and other forums and other organizations that we use and will be using for this purpose, to activate, to stimulate, to trade, economic relations, investments, etc. You will be seeing some important events, economic business events that the Council General will be organizing. You will be seeing groups of business people that are taken to Armenia, forums, special forums are organized, etc., economic, financial, etc., etc., and products, Armenian products presented. All this is something that will be happening. Is happening and will be happening. But I forgot your second question. What was environmental? Very important question. Environmental. Look, this is something also that we can talk about for hours and hours. But my point is the following. Armenia depends on export of metals. Armenia also needs proper environment, clean environment. So how is it possible to have a combination of both in the best way? I would say yes. Again, based on the world experience, it is possible. I was in countries, I saw things, I was in Australia, in Sydney, and which is very strong in mining. And so just next to the mines, so I witnessed the system, cleanness, that was really something that I was amazed. So, difficult question, I agree with your point. Very difficult question, very difficult to accomplish, but there are ways of doing that. And foreign companies, you know, it's rule of the game. They should, if they bring investments into the country, but the investment should be properly regulated in terms of having a legal basis, etc. So then it works. Kajaran, copper, molybdenum, this corporation, it is the owner is a German, 75% belongs to a German company which is called Kroningen, 25 local shares. And also there are some Chinese companies, Canadian companies operating in Armenia, but the most important thing to have a proper regulation and laws in place to keep our beautiful country clean and at the same time to enjoy the benefits of having the resources, but properly taxed, properly following the environmental standards, etc., etc.
Mark Alaja, that's the last question. I'm sorry, we have to leave the library.
Thank you, Leslie. Ambassador Bayburtyan, thank you very much. I have a question for you. Imagine my joy last April and May when I saw what was happening in Armenia. My family was following that very carefully. My wife is from Armenia. Her family is all in Armenia. It's very important for us that Armenia be successful and the people be happy. What can you say to the other people living in the diaspora here who do not share my feelings, who maybe have been members of political parties that are no longer in power in Armenia, that have some, not necessarily animosity, but huge anxiety about what's happening in Armenia and about the success of what was their political organizations? There are forces in Los Angeles, even in this room, that may be looking toward failure of the existing government to prove some point that maybe it was a bad idea. I sure don't want that to happen. What can you say to encourage the people who have been members of these other political parties to have them be happy about what is happening in Armenia?
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. I would say that, you know, patriotism in the bloods of all of us. We are all patriots of our nation, our country, and we are very proud to be Armenians, all of us. And you know, of course, there are political considerations, there are very many different considerations, but I'm sure that every Armenian is happy with the success of Armenia. So, you know, it's these political considerations are there. Political considerations come and go, and but motherland is there, and we all understand that the success of motherland is a success of all of us, and it have very many manifestations. Not only patriotism, not only our feelings, our devotion to the nation that we have, but also realize that Armenia, without Armenia, the diaspora will not survive, and very often without diaspora, Armenia is not Armenia that we wish to see. So so both depends on each other, and also what happened in Armenia was amazing. That majority, despite all the voices, despite, I think that it is our richness and wealth to have different opinions. It has our strength, not weakness, to have different opinions, different criticism, etc. Because the criticism also is the driving force of what we were talking about. And so, but it's very important regarding all matters of national importance to unite. We can have different opinions, we can have different approaches, which is natural, we should have. But to unite around those pillar or key things, key problems, key endeavors that are vital for the entire nation. If we are able to do that, and I'm sure we are, as a nation, and what happened in Armenia, I'm repeating, but on purpose, emphasizing it's a manifestation of this, that it was a collective will of the people. And what we saw in the entire world, how it was received, how it was perceived, it was also phenomenal, because for the first time in the history of our nation, maybe there are some periods that you would say I am wrong, but my personal feeling that for the first time, people living in California, people living in Marseille, or people living in St. Petersburg, they felt they are participants of the processes that happen in Armenia. Not observers, but participants. So that's phenomenal, and that gives a strong ground for us to not just to hope, but to believe that based on those principles, we will be able to build what we were talking about and to achieve that. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Dr. Bayburtyan, for the pleasant time that we had with lots of questions. We encourage you to become members. Anybody who's interested in the organization, the activities, and what you see here this evening as an example, we encourage you to participate. Talk to any one of the board members of AESA and do become members. We encourage you. And thank you. The next lecture is going to be on April 11. April 11th. So we hope to see you all again. Thank you so much. Okay, I have a request to also remind you of the Science Olympiad, ASA's flagship project, Science Olympiad. That's going to be next Sunday, 17th of March. So all the parents will have children in the middle, 6th through 12th grade. Do encourage them to have projects bring over, and you can find out the details on the ASA website. Thank you very much. Anybody's interested to be a judge at the Science Olympiad, you certainly are welcome. You can talk to Svetlana here, the pink shirt. Svetlana, anybody wants to be a judge? You certainly welcome.
We accept like actually we are not also